Hey, hello, howdy, how you doing? Today we embark on a journey into the unknown. See that vast plot of nothingness just on the other side of the river? Yeah, we're going over there. Utilizing the talents of Waldron and their mod Over the River, we're going to embark on a journey to see what awaits us across a demented and collapsing bridge. Every attempt begins the same. You'll spawn in just off of the bridge in West Point. There we go. The only problem with that? Well, there's a few hundred zombies standing in your way. Come on. Okay. Anything worth grabbing here. Now, I went into this completely blind, so I had no idea that I was walking directly into a labyrinth out of Jigsaw's sketchbook. On my first attempt, I managed to make it all the way onto the boat and even made it down a flight of stairs before getting skull-fucked back to the start menu. I just don't know where to go. Attempt 2 was fairly similar. I made it to the boat and tried to jump into a room below, not realizing that there was a tile in between the walls, plunging me to my death. The game hated it so. At this point, the Indie Stone pulled out their spaghetti code and strangled me with it until the game crashed, forcing me to start a new save file. Cool. Thanks, Zomboid. Attempts 3, 4, and 5 were all pretty much the exact same. I would make it to the boat, spend 10 or 15 minutes pulling zombies up from the lower decks, running down into the ship, and then either getting killed because I didn't know you couldn't hop the fencing, I got lost, or I just got mobbed by a few dozen zombies who decided the best course of action would be to just block a section of the walkway like those protesters who think it's cool to block an active highway. Can I get through that? No. Only this time, instead of an F-150, it was my soft, shitty body slapping up against them. By my 6th attempt, I'd gotten the path down, managed to pull most of the zombies out of the way, and successfully made it to the other side of the river. Challenge over, right? Well, no. Come on, there's like 3/4 of a video left. What are you, stupid? Now that we're here, my goal is to fully survive a month and then drastically reevaluate my life choices. I managed to find a trailer park to the north of the docks, which I used to grab some essentials before heading west to some houses. This ended up being the best thing I could have done, especially considering I found a generator magazine in one of the mailboxes literally on the first day. Mag 2? First mailbox? Let's go. If I can be real with you for a second, I've only ever had that happen like 2 times in my thousands of hours playing this game, so it was pretty cool. Anyway, my plan here was to pull all of the zombies in the vicinity, kite them north, and then hop a fence before looping back around to continue looting in peace. Obviously, I wasn't going to be able to pull all of them, but as long as only a couple idle around, I should be more than safe. For the pockets that I wasn't able to aggro, I just used a nearby fence and issued death by stomping until finding a chef knife on one of the corpses. Ooh, perfect. End it just like that. Eventually, I found a house that looked suitable to turn into a makeshift base. It's got 2 stories so I can hide upstairs, along with a kitchen that's out of view from the main road, though that didn't stop every zombie. That's perfect. By that afternoon, I'd managed to push down the road a ways, finding a metal bar that I could use to continue clearing the immediate area. Metal bars and pipes are some of my favorite weapons in the game just due to how durable they are. Take this next fight for example. I'm quite literally fresh off the boat. I have almost 0 skills in every category except strength and fitness, and the only weapon in my name is a metal bar that I found in some random dude's garage. This sole metal bar accounted for around a dozen or so kills while only losing half of its durability, and gifting me a cowboy hat. Day 2 was entirely spent looting. I continued south up until the road split, in which case I headed east towards the main city. There's a ton of zombies around, so it wasn't really worth fighting them. I just didn't have the levels or weapons to entertain that seriously. Instead, I focused on balling them up and kiting them behind buildings before targeting garages. If you're wondering why garages specifically, well, the answer is pretty simple. They have a chance to spawn crafting supplies like nails, weapons like pipes, bars, hammers, and screwdrivers, and each garage has a chance to spawn a generator in it. Since it's only day 2, there wasn't really a point in being picky over gear here. I don't know the area either, so I played it safe and just grabbed anything remotely of value. Relatively early on in the day, I found a small section of car wreckage to the south. In that wreckage was a pristine car, just waiting for me to ram it into some building's wall at a $120. The only holdup right now is that trying to take that car will draw way too much attention, and I'm still rocking 0 Statman. That doesn't mean I didn't try though. By 10 AM, I was sitting in the driver's seat. This is where I can confidently say I'm responsible for the lost brain cells of several thousand people. I proceeded to spend the next hour or so searching for a key before leaving. That's all normal. Unless you're like me and grabbed the burglar trait like 3 hours earlier and just forgot about it. It wasn't the end of the world though. Because of that, I went back to looting, which led me directly to a welder's mask, propane torch, screwdriver, hammer, and other supplies. Outside of that, I stole a TV from a random house, which gave me flashbacks to playing San Andreas on the PS2. That was really it though. I mean, I fought a few more zombies, looted a couple houses, and watched Life and Living, but nothing crazy. On day 3, I stole another TV, but this one was necessary since I can actually watch VHS tapes on it. When I wasn't being a kleptomaniac, I was defending my house from the loser neighbors asking for their stuff back. Turns out the local HOA cannot withstand the force of a crowbar-wielding lunatic. Now that I actually have a means to do it, I spent a lot of day 3 killing most of the zombies in this cell. My house isn't all that secure, and the only way out of the second floor is through a window or off a balcony, neither of which are good options. Instead of carefully planning out my next position or building some basic defenses, I figured why not just kill all of the zombies in the area? You know, the best defense is a good offense type of approach? Something like that. The goal wasn't necessarily to kill every zombie though, just to kill enough that I'd be able to live in relative safety. Eventually, I reached the end of the road, which connected back to the Soul Highway. The horde here was way too big to deal with, so I baited them into a house masterfully, I might add, before hopping out a window and running back home. Day 4 was a blast. I went back to the trailer park only to walk directly into a survivor house. Inside, I found several machetes, an axe, and a bathroom party that I wasn't invited to. After dropping off that gear, I moved north where I found a warehouse, perfect for living in. There's a ton of crates for storage, some lockers containing a few firearms, and a big enough area to build out whatever I wanted. The crates were also stocked full of a variety of items, from Santa hats to plushies and an antique oven. All I needed now was a generator, so I spent the afternoon going door to door in search of one, coming up empty-handed once again. To explore, maybe there's a whole other neighborhood over here. While on another looting run on day 5, I came across another survivor home next to a park. Is it worth? I'm gonna say yes. I'm gonna keep them. Oh, wait. 100% worth. They got a double back. The only difference here is that this one was defended by a few dozen zombies. On the bright side, fighting in a park comes with benefits in the sense that you can rest almost anywhere. All you need to do once you're exerted is kite the horde to a corner, then jog over to a bench, sit, and rest. If you don't know, sitting and resting will recover stamina at something akin to double the rate compared to just standing. Then you can just shift move to stand quickly and get right back into the action. One variable I tried to keep in mind was corpse sickness, so if you notice that the zombies are usually in a line or pile, that's why. I tried to keep them far away from any potential resting benches so that I wouldn't get sick while recovering. While losing some zombies behind a house, I ran across a garage and noticed a generator sitting there. So after finishing off the remaining few zombies, I circled back, grabbed the generator, and was able to make it back to my new base. We're gonna start getting tired, it's 4 o'clock. On my 6th day over the river, I finally realized that I was rocking the burglar occupation and went back to hotwire that car from a few days ago. Meaning, within 6 days of setting foot on land, I've managed to find a decent safe house, a generator mag, a generator, 2 survivor homes, and a working car. I was so hyped about everything that I even went back to the park for round 2 with some more zombies. By late morning, I'd cleared most of the area and was able to finally break into the survivor home, although there wasn't much to loot. There were a few masks upstairs and a plethora of books in the bookshelves, but other than that, I didn't find a single weapon. In the afternoon, I packed up most of my shit and began moving it to the warehouse down the road. I also made a pit stop in a nearby house, taking one of their chairs to use as a bed. There's a stadium or something just a block over, so on day 7, I hopped in my new car and drove over to see what I could find.
It's gonna be like a stadium, right? Bleachers. Get rid of these guys first.
As soon as I walked in, I noticed the tight hallways, so I decided to just spam shout a few times to draw out any zombies, and then backed into the parking lot to give myself more space to work with. The locker room was a nice first area. It had a ton of backpacks and duffel bags, but I didn't need any of that. The field itself has been converted into an outpost of sorts. There's cornfields here and some houses built out of metal, which I thought was super cool. I took a few hours to go through them, if nothing more than to show them off. While exploring the area, I found a staircase leading to a bunk room and some weapon lockers. This was huge because one of them was holding an AK for me. In the parking lot outside, there's close to a dozen cars, most of which at least look drivable, so that was reassuring if I ever ended up in a situation where I needed another set of wheels. Day 8 was pure chaos. I started the day off by finding a gas station just to the north of where I'm basing up, so I spent a good chunk of the morning clearing that out and refueling my car. While I was leaving the gas station, a heli event triggered. I wasn't really sure what to do in this situation since I didn't want to hang out close to my base and pull all the zombies over, so I just started driving around on the main highway, eventually winding up in some McCoy logging warehouses. This seemed like the perfect place to ride out the heli, so I hopped out and proceeded to spend the next several hours kiting zombies around the area until the pilots got bored and flew away. I ended up losing my car here since there were too many zombies to risk even trying to start it up and get out, so I ended up just running into the woods to lose the horde.
Those crates. They not know them? Oh, they could just walk through the crates, dude?
Day 9 was kind of a wash. Nothing really happened aside from finding another generator in someone's garage. Day 10 was where the run got interesting though. The northeast portion of the city is allocated to the military base, which I stumbled into while wandering through the woods like a lunatic. My first idea was to simply brute force my way into the compound, which was really stupid looking back. There were hundreds of zombies outside of the walls, let alone the 1,000 or so idling in the hangars. Eventually, I gave up fighting and tried to kite as many as I could through the neighborhood below me, but even that wasn't very effective. That being said, this is your TGP reminder to always bring a kitchen chair with you to rest at. It's 7 weight and will drastically speed up your stamina regen when resting at it during longer fights. You can store it in your primary inventory or your backpack as well, so don't leave your base without one when you're planning on fighting that day. After spending around 5 hours fighting zombies outside the fencing, I just said fuck it and decided to run into the base. Of course, as soon as I got inside, I became drowsy, so I pulled the plug on the day and went home for the night with plans to push further into the base tomorrow. The base itself is massive. It's on par with, or maybe even a little bit bigger than the military camp in Raven Creek, with a ton of barracks and armories to find. The only issue right now is that there's just too many zombies to make it viable to loot. My goal quickly became to secure a barracks and use that to rest in, but even a simple task like that ended up taking most of the day, with zombies constantly flooding in through the doors and windows whenever I thought I was in the clear. On the bright side, each building has an armory in it akin to this one, which means at worst, I'll walk away with some firepower. In the shared parking lot, I found 2 working vehicles that I could use to replace the car I left at McCoy's. This is completely unrelated to the rest of the playthrough, but you can find MREs in the bunk crates if you have Saf's cooking on, and they're easily my favorite food source in the entire mod. It's not like a can where you just open and eat, you get the full meal setup where you can add everything and just cook it and add like the lemon powder to your drink and stuff. It's just really cool, and there's not just one type of MRE either, there's a variety of them, which I thought was awesome. There's not really a ton of mods out there that have this kind of depth to them, so shout out to Saf. Anyway, back to the chaos. There's a warehouse next door to the building that I've been working on, and I almost ended the run here when I broke down the door only to get reverse Jehovah's Witnessed. I was tired and exerted at this point, so I snuck into another building in the west, hopped out the back window, and circled back to the original building, where I spent the rest of the day hiding on the second floor.
We're gonna go vibe upstairs for the upstairs.
Day 12 was a continuation of the day before, only this time, instead of running the biggest scam of 2023, I spent the entirety of the day fighting zombies and looting crates for M16 mags and MREs. I also hit up a couple armories, but I'm only focusing on weapons and ammo that I can keep using. So I'm only really grabbing like 12 gauge shells, 5.56 or 223 ammo since I can convert that to 5.56, and then 9mm. I'm also only grabbing a couple guns. Contrary to the red, white, and blue coursing through my patriotic veins, I only need 1 or 2 guns of each ammo type. Outside of that, I managed to find a large hospital in the east right next to a bunker. The hospital reminded me a ton of the one in the northwest of Raven Creek, which gave me a big wave of nostalgia. It even has some armories inside of it that I took advantage of.
And we can be Santa? Oh, a lot of that can go. Might have to go scrounging for some more MREs.
I spent the night in the hospital before continuing my shenanigans on day 13.
Sick stuff. Been here for quite a few days now. So how did you minutes or so? We're already, what, 3 hours in? Probably not too well. I haven't been keeping notes at all. Don't worry, there's nothing in stresses Miss Doubtfire. This is all medical stuff. Don't break the crowbar. This is also medical supplies.
Right next to the hospital are these tents that I was way too excited to check out. See, I figured these would be similar to the ones in Bedford Falls, where they're absolutely loaded with gear. Unfortunately, these ones had practically nothing in them, and I spent more time dealing with the pockets of zombies than it was worth. After spending the entire day clearing an area to walk away with a couple magazines, I went back to the hospital with plans to wrap up here tomorrow.
Yeah, okay, I'm calling that. It's just gonna be junk. Well,
Day 14 was my last day in the military base. With only one building left to hit, I broke down the vaulted door outside of the bunker and stepped inside. The bunker is loaded with guns and ammo. The first room I entered was similar to the barracks, with the chests next to the cots and then some lockers containing 5.56 ammo, mags, knives, and some duffel bags. In the southeast corner is a vaulted door containing 2 zombies and what I would describe as a multiplayer safe house loot room. It's stacked almost entirely wall to wall with crates and weapon lockers containing a variety of ammo cases. If you don't know, most of these canisters contain around 20 boxes of ammo, making this room the biggest jackpot of the playthrough. There's one more room across the hall that has a similar setup, but was pretty empty. There were a couple 12 gauge canisters in here as well, but I was at capacity, so I figured I'd leave them for now and could always come back if I ever needed the extra shells. With the car fully stocked, I set off back to the warehouse for the first time in several days, where I spent the rest of my time trying to organize all of my gear. The focus for today was all about exploration. I spent the majority of the day driving around just looking for anything cool to check out when I found a small cabin right next to the military base. It's next to a neighborhood that I haven't really touched, so I decided to do a quick loop through to check out the area. The whole vicinity is just crawling with zombies, so I'll need to take care of that problem first, but the cabin does have a well, and there's another one in the park a block or two away. The next morning, I grabbed some weapons, hopped in my car, and set off for the cabin. I started out with around 160 shotgun shells with the goal of leveling my aiming enough to come back with an M16 or AK, but secretly hoping it'd be enough to make a dent. It's hard to do this scene justice with words, so I'm just gonna let Flame go wild with the combat montage for a bit, and I'll see you in like 30 seconds. By 12:30, I'd run out of shells, and it felt like there were more zombies than when I started. Luckily, I remembered that there were canisters of 12-gauge shells just sitting in the military bunker, so I headed back there, walking away with around 550 extra shells. Now, the next few days are chocked full of combat, so I'm going to try to choose my moments to keep it entertaining. If you want to see the full combat scenes, I have the streams VODed down in the description, and if you want all the intros, outros, and pauses removed, well, I have those streams condensed into one video that I'll have in the description as well. Anyway, all I need to know right now is that I ended day 16 after hitting aiming 5 and reloading 2. On day 17, I grabbed around 800 rounds of 5.56 ammo, an M16, and my Spaz 12, and headed back to the neighborhood to continue my rampage. I started off with a shotgun, but quickly resorted to my M16. The funny thing about this is that I brought along about 15 mags, so whenever I needed to reload, I had to stop fighting for like 2 in-game hours in order to fully reload all my mags. Anyway, enjoy some more combat.
How much smoother the game runs.
After 2 full days of shooting up the neighborhood, I'd successfully cleared the area, which means it's time for some grinding. I'm currently running the Essential Crafting mod, which incorporates a variety of crafting changes, one of which makes it so that you need 16 ripped sheets to make 1 sheet rope, instead of 1 article of clothing. Because of this, I need hundreds of ripped sheets. You'll see why in a second. What I'm trying to say is, I spent literally all of day 18 shredding clothing off the piles of corpses. When I got corpse sickness, I took a short break and went to the Fossoil to retrieve the trailer in the parking lot. Again, I'll show you why we need that in a second, but it's vital for future plans. When I got back to the base that night, I read a couple skill books, which took me into the morning of day 19. At this point, I was way too tired to do anything, so I figured I might as well just spend the entirety of today reading more skill books before getting started on my base plans.
Knock out some of these books. Mechanics will be a good one. Metalworking will be a good one.
And by that, I mean I spent a good portion of day 20 shredding more ripped clothing, which I managed to turn into 48 sheet rope. If you're trying to do the math on that, it equates to 768 ripped sheets. Now that I have 48 sheet rope, I can use 2 at a time to create 4 stacks of logs, meaning I can now load the trailer with 192 logs at a time. And if your brain's starting to hurt from all this basic math, I'm right there with you. Let's stop talking about it and focus on the fun things, like chopping down trees. After spending the last 2 days chopping down trees, I spent the better part of day 22 making log stacks and loading them into the trailer. And on day 23, I started moving logs over to the cabin. The plan is actually pretty straightforward. Use log walls to secure the perimeter, then build a second floor highway system to the boat. I'm planning to use the eastern field as a massive garden plot, and then putting an outdoor crafting area in the west. That being said, the walls take priority. I need 4 ripped sheets per wall, so I'm gonna need to gather some more of those at some point, but for now, I want to get all the logs brought over in place so that I can spam build the walls. Now that I have something like 150 logs ready to use, I started focusing on the walls. Unfortunately, I made life incredibly inconvenient for myself by unstacking all of these logs first instead of placing the stacks 1 tile out. So I ended up spending a few hours restacking those same logs and moving them one at a time. Log walls take 4 logs to build, so you need 1 stack per tile in order to have enough to build with. This is what that looks like in action. It just makes building these walls out so much easier and much more efficient. This went on for 2 days until I ran out of logs, in which case I grabbed an AK, about 1,000 rounds of ammo, and moved over to the forest next to the cabin. My plan here is to use the AK to pull all of the zombies out of the woods and wipe them out before I spend another day committing mass deforestation. When I wasn't impersonating the monkey bar guys, I was continuing work on the wall. Day 27 was more of the same. I got an early start on tree chopping and spent 14 hours grinding away at that, which should give me enough logs to finish the wall with. On the bright side, most of the corpses have decayed now, so I don't have to worry about corpse sickness while building anymore, which is really nice. I also got to break out the AK again after a wandering horde swung by to check out my gentrification project. After taking care of the zombies, I went back to stacking and moving logs. Days 29 and 30 were spent moving the remainder of the logs over to the cabin. After that was taken care of, I spent a few hours gathering more ripped sheets before spending the rest of the day catching up on all the skill magazines. It's at this point that we've seemingly reached the end of the video, right? I mean, we've made it a whole month, the video's all done, roll credits, see you next time. But wait, there's a few minutes left in the video still. What's going on? Well, it's actually pretty simple. See, this project was originally going to be another 100-day video, but after about 20 hours of streaming this, I got bored and admittedly lazy. I was too focused on being an entertaining streamer than actually continuing my playthrough. With that, I want to show you that sometimes goobers like me make silly mistakes too. On day 32, I set out for McCoy logging to gather some nails and general supplies that I need to continue working on the compound with. I figured it'd be a nice break considering I just spent several hours doing nothing other than chopping down trees and building log walls.
Children.
My plan was similar to the neighborhood, walk in with 1,000 rounds of ammo, kill all the zombies, and loot the warehouses for anything of value. Not to mention, the horde there should give me enough electrical scrap to never have to worry about repairing a generator for the remainder of this run. The big problem was that I got way too cute with it.
No.
Instead of balling the horde up and looping them into the open field or onto the road, I decided to up the stakes and constantly move between the warehouses and logs. This caused the horde to break up into smaller chunks and get stuck on the props and furniture in the area. That alone is stupid enough to get you killed anywhere. Add in the fact that this is my second time ever being here, and I have no idea which corners lead to dead ends, and, well, you get what you deserve. It was one of those moments where I knew I f***ed up as soon as I rounded the corner, but by that point it was way too late. A bite isn't instant death, but it's certainly a run-ender, and because I didn't want to wait around to die, I made the choice to go out on my own terms. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm bummed I never got to retake the bridge that I initially crossed, which was my original end goal, but this was a nice journey into the unknown. Over the River as a map mod is a blast to play, even if I didn't get to really fully experience it. I'd highly recommend throwing this on along with something like West Point Expansion and doing a run where you start in West Point and then make the trek over here when you're ready. I want to give a big shout out to all my YouTube members and Patreon supporters who oftentimes are the ones who recommend these map mods to me. I appreciate you all. I hope you're all off to a great start in 2024, and thanks for stopping by.